Manga, a medium that surpasses almost every other form of comic book media, with its wide variety of tales and adventures depicting the highs and lows of humanity. It is such a varied and engaging medium that draws each and every one of its readers in. So today I'm going to go over some of my top 15 manga that I have read and I own in my collection. So let's get right into it. With this video, I have a few sets of rules that I have for what I consider my favorite manga. First off, do I have it complete in my collection? I'm keeping this criteria because that helps me filter out any bunch of different series that I may have watched all of the anime for, but I haven't read all of the manga, so that doesn't really make it count. Also, have I read through it all recently? That definitely affects how I view a series. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get started. At number 15 is Frieren Beyond Journey's End, which is a fantasy manga, not an isekai manga, a fantasy manga. Yes, it is extremely rare to actually get a solely fantasy manga, but we finally have one. It is by Kanehito Yamada and Tsukasa Abe, and this is a great series about an elf. She just completed her and her party's goal of defeating the Demon King, and so their party kind of disbands and they go their separate ways. Well, 50 years later, the elf comes back and notices that things have changed. All of her friends have now aged and all of this stuff, and she sees the ramifications of what happened after they defeated the Demon King. And so we get a look into time and how it affects everybody, and it's a very good story. I highly recommend it. There's an anime coming out soon that is by Madhouse Studio. The director did Bocchi the Rock, and the music for it, which sounds very Tolkien and very Lord of the Rings-ish, it was done by the guy who did the music for Violet Evergarden. So if you're hesitant about that, wait till the anime comes out, check it out, and then check out this series. Next up is Noragami Stray Dogs by Adachitoka. I consider it the manga version of Percy Jackson, a modern fantasy set in modern day Japan, but with all of the different gods and goddesses and deities in the Shinto religion. It's really cool. We follow our main character Yato as he wants to become a well-known and respected god. Honestly, it's a very funny, very engaging story. Art is some of the best I've seen in any of my series. So it's about to wrap up in Japan with volume 27, and Kodansha has recently been releasing some decent 3-in-1s, so if you wanted to get into that, now's the perfect time to get into Noragami Stray God. Next one might be a tad controversial, still has a lot of hype, is Tokyo Revengers by Ken Wakui. It is kind of an isekai-ish where the main character he's living an awful life. His only girlfriend that he's ever had was in middle school, and that was when he got involved with some local gangs and stuff like that, and he ends up going down a path where his life continues to spiral and spiral out of control. And one day he learns that the only girlfriend he had is killed by those same gangs that he interacted with back in middle school. And so one day after hearing that news, he is pushed off and is run over by a train. But when he wakes up, he finds that he is in the body of his 12-year-old self back in middle school. And so he's having to change the past so that he can rescue the one and only girl that he has ever loved and the only girl who has ever loved him back. It's a good series. 4 volumes are out right now. Season 2 is currently ongoing and on Hulu. I've heard that the manga goes downhill, and so that's why it's kind of lower on my list. I'm hesitant to put it higher because I actually really do enjoy these early volumes. Hopefully it's not as bad as a lot of people say, but we'll see as 7 Seas continues to publish these volumes. At number 12 is a manga that is one of the few Viz volumes that whenever it gets published, I am reading it pretty much immediately. And that is Kaiju number 8 by Naoya Matsumoto. Essentially, this guy, he's about 32. He's working to clean up after the battles between the Japanese Defense Force and these giant kaiju. His life's not terrible, but it's not great. He's a bunch of unfulfilled dreams that he has, and well, one day while cleaning up after a battle, a mini kaiju comes up and essentially possesses him, and now he becomes the infamous Kaiju number 8. He joins the Japanese Defense Force, and so he's gonna try and take down all these kaiju and figure out what happened to him. It's really good. It's definitely one of the best Viz Shonen Jump releases. It's a great series, highly recommend it. There was an anime announcement, but that's not going to be until 2024, so it's a long way off. There's not that many volumes out, only 5, so this is a good time to try and check out Kaiju number 8. At number 11 is Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku. This is a fun slice of life where all the characters are in their late 20s and they're kind of keeping their fun hobbies to themselves. The main girl, she loves drawing doujinshi, specifically BL, and the main guy is a total gamer otaku, and they keep these lives kind of to themselves, and whenever they show it out to other people, they kind of get rejected for these aspects of themselves, and so they kind of fall for each other over time. The first volume's kind of okay, it's not that great, but as it gets going, it gets really, really good. I highly recommend it. There's only 6 volumes. There is a box set. I would recommend, as a general rule, box sets only look online, do not buy in person. You can find them for almost half off in a bunch of different places. If not half off, 20 to 30% off. But anywho, it's a great series. One of my favorite rom-coms that I have. Not that I have a ton, but definitely still one of my favorites. At number 10 is a manga that if you said it was in someone's top 10 a year ago, everybody would say, what the heck is that? But now everybody knows what it is. To an extent, it's almost overhyped, and that is Blue Lock. And honestly, it is a really, really good sports manga. It has some cringy dialogue, and it's very shonen in a lot of aspects about it, but it has some of the best artwork I've seen in a lot of manga. It's really good for shonen, really catchy, and honestly, really engaging and fast-moving plot. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth checking out and watching the anime. The anime, I'd say it's a solid 7. It's a solid 7. The manga is probably an 8.5. And that's just my view on it. I generally tend to rate things a little higher, so if an 8.5, that's really high. To me, that's it makes sense for a lot of where the series are. But yeah, if you don't know what this is, if you've been living under a rock, Blue Lock is about 300 of Japan's top strikers, which is a position in soccer or football, depending on where you live. They are sent to a facility to train and become the best in Japan, and if you get eliminated from the Blue Lock program, you cannot play professional soccer for representing Japan. So there's a lot of high stakes for the characters. It has a Death Games feel, but it's not violent or anything. So it's very interesting, very engaging, very good read. Check out Blue Lock if you have not. You probably have if you're in the manga sphere. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about it. So let's get right on to the next one. On the opposite end of this, on the hype scale, Go-Go Loser Ranger is probably one of the most underrated series in my top 15 list. I'm not kidding, this is fantastic. I have seen a little bit of talk about it, but not enough, especially for how popular and nostalgic Power Rangers is. Go-Go Loser Ranger isn't as popular as I really think it should be. The general plot is that 13 years before the main story, the Rangers have they've defeated all 13 of the monster bosses, but kept it a secret to the public, and now the Rangers put on a show for the populace, and every week the monsters try and attack, but the Rangers knock them back. And our main character, one of the monsters, he's fed up with this cycle, and so he's going to take down the corrupt ranger system from the inside. I kind of call it a mix of Power Rangers and the Boys, because some of the Rangers are either corrupt or they have a loose sense of morals, or just a variety of different things that make them very interesting and not the heroes that they're supposed to be. It's really good, really underrated. There's an anime that looks amazing that's coming out very, very soon. Check out the trailer that's on YouTube. It's really, really cool, and it looks like it's going to have a solid adaptation. So check out Go-Go Loser Ranger. Next up is Slam Dunk by Takehiko Inoue, and boy, is this a great sports manga. It's iconic. It's still in the top 10 highest selling manga in Japan. It's been less than 30 years since the series has ended in Japan. That's how popular this series is in Japan, and it deserves its popularity. Sakuragi, who's the main character, Mr. Redhead in the front, he has been rejected a ton by girls, and so To impress this new girl that he likes, he learns how to play basketball and ends up loving it more than he thought he would. It's a really good story, beautiful artwork. It's real, like the artwork is really realistic. It's insane how this was published in Weekly Shonen Jump. I don't know how Inoue did it. It's a really, really great read. Highly recommend if you haven't. And if you can't really read the manga just yet, check out its anime. It's only like 100 episodes or so. It's a little long, but it's solid. So yeah, that is Slam Dunk by Takehiko Inoue. Next up might be a tad controversial, but Haikyuu goes at the number 7 slot. And the reason for that is nostalgia for me. Haikyuu was a really amazing story that I really loved. It was one of the first manga that I read knowing that it was manga, and that's what puts it ahead for me. Also, one thing that going forward with Haikyuu is that each of the series going forward, I have had some form of really strong emotion that I felt while reading each series. And for Haikyuu, that was just going on this journey with everybody, seeing how all the characters grow, how they change, how they improve themselves is really inspiring, and I cried when the series ended, when I read the final volume. It was an amazing experience for me. If you don't know what Haikyuu is, it is a volleyball manga where the main character, Hinata Shoyo, he's small. He's like 5'4", 5'5", which in Japan, that's actually not that bad. That's not that short. But when playing a sport like Haikyuu, height is key. But luckily, Hinata can jump really high, so he makes up for that difference. And his dream is to just be like the little giant that he saw on television back in late elementary school. It's a really, really solid sports manga. It's only slightly ahead of Slam Dunk, but it's mostly for that nostalgic reasons. The artwork is a little rough at the beginning, but it gets really, really good later on. Next up is the controversial pick of Attack on Titan at number 6. For a lot of people, Attack on Titan is in their top 5 or even their favorite series of all time, but for me it is number 6. It's not because it's a bad story. A lot of it has to do with the artwork. I feel like the artwork isn't that good, and Isayama has even said that his artwork isn't his best. He thinks he draws really bad. I don't think he draws awful, I just think it's not as good as it could be, and that's why I like the anime a lot more than I do the manga. The manga is still solid, the plot is amazing. I actually enjoyed the ending. I think it fits really well. I know a lot of people don't, and that's okay, but I feel like it's a good series. If you don't know what it's about, there's these things called Titans which eat humans and have driven humanity to pretty much to the brink of extinction. And our protagonist, Eren Yeager, is going to try and stop them from destroying humanity and kill them all. It's a really good story, really engaging. Seeing the mystery unfold is brilliant. Next up is this big boy, A Silent Voice. A Silent Voice, if you've read it, you understand. This is peak slice of life in general. It's really well written, it's really gripping, really emotional. I know very few people who've watched this and disliked it. There's nobody who really dislikes this series, and for a lot of people it's really, really high up there. And it's just a beautiful story. It's about our guy Shoya, and Shoya, he bullied this deaf girl back in elementary school, and she ended up being bullied so much that she had to move schools, and all the rest of his friends essentially abandoned him, even though they were also participating in the bullying themselves. He became the social outcast. He was the scapegoat, if you will. You really see him deal with some like depression and suicide, and he's like about to go through with it, and he wants to see the girl one last time and apologize. And when he does, he realizes that he wants to try and fix what happened, both for himself and for her. And it's a really good series. One thing that's really like different than a lot of other series about bullying is that it shows both sides. We get to see how bullying affects Shoyo, the girl who gets bullied, and Shoya, who the bully, and how they deal with all of that. And it's a great story about repentance and forgiveness, and really, really good. Highly recommend. This is the collector's edition, definitely worth it. Really thick paper, really good hardcover. If you're not a fan of hardcovers, the box set is where to go, or just check out the movie on Netflix. Next up is a peak seinen manga, Vinland Saga by Makoto Yukimura. This is just a brilliant series. It has similar themes of repentance and forgiveness like in A Silent Voice, but it deals with it in a different way, and it's more from the violence of war, and it's a really, really philosophical and like a good study on psychology, on PTSD. It's currently on its second season that's currently airing right now. A lot of anime onlys have been starting to give it flack for it being different than what they're used to. Most people, watched the first season, it's action-packed, it's crazy. Thorfinn, he's like beating up a ton of people, he's being a badass and all that. And what we see is, later on in the story, is when he loses his drive, he becomes one of the most pitiful characters in the series until he finds a new drive. One to search for Vinland, a land far to the west, without war, without poverty, and without slavery. And he's going to find it, and he is going to create a peaceful land in Vinland. It's a beautiful story. It's going to end within the year, and when it does, I will be sad because this is an amazing story. Next up is an oldie, and that is Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo, and this is a series that has inspired most of the modern Shonen Jump. Like, Dragon Ball has taken influence from this. Creators of Naruto and One Piece, they started writing and drawing manga because of Akira. We would not have modern Shonen Jump without Akira. And honestly, it's like very 80s. It's very like the main character's a loner, all this different stuff. It's like very classic, very well written. Essentially, the government created these telepaths. That's not all that they can do, but essentially that's what they are. And it causes a nuclear bomb to explode in Tokyo and World War III to start, and it takes years after World War III. And humanity has kind of overcome and is now back to thriving, and these telepaths have kind of popped up again, and slowly but surely a war breaks out over these telepaths as one of them, who is called Akira, emerges, and the fight over Akira and the fate of humanity. It's a really crazy series, some really crazy artwork, and honestly, it's worth checking out just because of the fact that it has been so influential in modern shonen. And here is the next one, with my number 2 spot going to One Piece. Shocking, I know. Especially for how vocal I am as a One Piece fan online. One Piece is amazing. It's everything that you want in a shonen. Action-packed, amazing characters, great world building, great character dynamics, and even a tad bits of philosophy every now and again. I would love to do a video comparing the views of freedom in One Piece and the views of freedom in Attack on Titan. I'm kind of thinking up some ideas for that video. If you don't know about One Piece, 20 years ago, the king of the pirates, Gol D. Roger, was executed, and his final words talked about a mysterious treasure hidden at the very edge of the world called the One Piece, which started a 20-year era of piracy unheard of until then. The main character, Monkey D. Luffy, is on a journey to find the One Piece and become the Pirate King. It's an amazing story. Yeah, it's almost it's over 100 volumes at this point. It's still really good. And for those in the West who complain about how long One Piece is, that's nothing close to Hajime no Ippo, which is at 130 volumes in Japan and still ongoing. And there's another series, I don't remember its name, that's at 170 volumes in Japan. We only have one series that has hit the triple digits in English, and that is One Piece. And so I feel like the complaints about it being so long is a little overdone. Let's get on to number 1. Number 1 on this list is a manga that you've probably not heard of if you're new to the manga collecting. And if you're a veteran, you've heard of this. Actually, this is the first series of a creator that has already appeared on this list. That is Planetes by Makoto Yukimura. This is a sci-fi that's set in the near future where humanity has already established a permanent base and city on the moon and has set up a base on Mars and are trying to go further. The main character, he is a cleaner. He cleans Earth's atmosphere from little bits of nails or little bits of pieces like debris or whatever that has come from sending rockets and stuff up into space. But he has dreams of exploring, and this does just a great job of depicting just humanity's drive and curiosity to go further. It has some really, really amazing paneling. I'd say Dark Horse did a great job with how bright white the paper is versus the dark blackness of the ink. Makoto Yukimura does an amazing job depicting the vastness and deepness and blackness of space and how seemingly lonely we are in the universe. And it just is a beautiful work. I highly recommend checking it out. I think there is an anime for it. I haven't checked it out, but Planetes is beautiful, really good. It's my number one, obviously. You've seen this list. And I feel like One Piece and Planetes have kind of gone up and down fighting for number one. For me, I think Planetes is number one right now. Could change, but I feel like this is a series that really needs to be talked about a bit more. I don't really see a ton of people talking about it now. I don't know if people have when it was first coming out. Honestly, I feel like it's very underrated for how good it is. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you check out some of my other videos and my other content. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe, and check out a bunch of my other videos. I have some good ones, and I hope you come back and as I make more. So I'll see you guys again. Ciao.